Hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Scotty Drinks Tea. I'm Scotty, and I'm going to be drinking tea, and I hope you'll drink tea with me. Tonight, I am going to be drinking a LiuBao, a three cranes LiuBao, recipe number 0207 from the Guangxi Wuzhou factory. And I don't know a whole lot about LiuBao. I have had a few teas. This is the first actual cake that I've had. I got this from Yunnan sourcing, and I picked up just a single little cake. They're little 100-gram cakes. They look like this. They're adorable. And just to see, it was $7, and so I just tossed it in with an order. And I went to try it, and immediately turned around and bought a whole sleeve of them. They come in like a 6-pack in a little bamboo thing. It's very cute, and still really cheap, but really good. Surprisingly good. And I don't know if this is a great example of what a LiuBao is, again, because I don't know a whole lot about them, but I do know that it comes from a pretty good tea factory. The Guangxi Wuzhou tea factory is pretty well known and famous for their LiuBao, mostly in baskets, but again, I see more and more of these cakes on the market, and I think they must be just trying to cash in on the poor craze and thing that's going on and compressing these into cakes, because I'm pretty sure that traditionally these are just stored in baskets. Drink a lot in Malaysia, and that's about all I know about actual LiuBao tea. But what I do know is I think this tea is pretty tasty. So this is what it looks like, the leaves. And again, I'm sorry that if the video is not the best quality or not. I don't even think that's in focus, but they're dark. They look like shu pu'er. If you want to see the tea itself in the cake. Okay. Really heavily compressed. Not quite an iron cake level, but really close. Okay. There are some links that I've been finding online that the Wuzhou tea factory is related to Shagwan, maybe just in ownership, but that wouldn't surprise me with the way this tea is compressed. It reminds me a lot of Shagwan cakes, and especially Shagwan shu pu'ers, that they're pretty heavily compressed. But anyway, let's drink the tea instead of just looking at it. Although, speaking of looking at tea, I was talking with my wife, Sarah Jane, today about we're trying to find a new wall calendar for this year, and I was thinking, oh, I should find some tea, a tea wall calendar, something like a tea cake of the month kind of thing, and I couldn't find any. And I'm thinking, that seems ridiculous. Surely there must be like a pu'er cake of the month wall calendar somewhere, but I could not find it. So if anybody knows of any that exist, let me know, and I would love to get it. And if not, maybe I'll just make it. Maybe I'll just take some old wrappers and just paste it over a blank wall calendar, or get one with cats on it or something, and put a wrapper on it. I don't know. Let's smell this. Yeah, so one of the things I really like about this tea is it is very, very creamy. It has a little bit of that medicinal cherry, and a little bit of the betel nut, and I get some betel nut in the aroma in the warm gaiwan, and I would not know what betel nut tastes like, except that I got a chance to go to India about a year ago, and I got a chance to try betel nut in the streets in India, and it was not the most pleasant experience, having like blood red spit kind of coming out of your mouth, and I didn't have it in there for very long, but it does have a very interesting flavor, and it definitely borders on that cherry, dried cherry flavor, which I get a lot from shu pu'ers. And I also get a lot from this LiuBao, and especially in the aroma. So we'll go ahead and give this a rinse. Okay, it's pretty compacted, so I'm gonna let this rinse go for a little bit. It's pretty young. This is a 2014 tea. I don't know exactly what conditions it's been stored in. I just got it not that long ago. But if it's coming, it came from Yunnan sourcing, and they're located in Kunming, so probably pretty dry storage if they've had it for any length of time. But again, as compressed as the tea cake is, I doubt that just a few years of aging is going to make much of a difference on it. I think this tea could age really well, but it's pretty good as it is. I don't mind young Shu Pu'er, or in this case LiuBao. I don't really mind young Sheng either. It just has to be good. And I don't, again, I'm not sure that this is a great example of LiuBao tea, because this really tastes an awful lot like a nice Shu Pu'er. And I know that there are some similarities in manufacturing, at least I think there are, but it's not as distinctive as other LiuBaos that I've had before. Okay, so we'll just warm up this cup, give my little tea guy, my color-changing tea pet, a rinse. He doesn't pee anymore. His little thing got clogged with tea leaves, and I can't get it out. And I how do you get it? How do you unclog this? It's very awkward. I want to just blow on it, but you can see my dilemma. And a toothpick just seems mean. So anyway, he just kind of holds tea in his basket, and he doesn't pee very much. He looks happy though, and he still changes color. So, all right, I'm gonna smell this. Yeah. So warm leather, cherry, a little bit of cream in the hot guy one, and maybe some woodiness. It's not super complex, but what it has is really good and really on point. It's not cloudy in the sense of flavor. It's not muddled. It does only a few things, but it does it really, really well. So we'll go ahead and actually take a sip. So I've been doing a little bit of reading on LiuBao lately. It seems to be kind of an up and coming tea, maybe a little bit less expensive than some pu'ers are now. Although if it keeps being collected like it is, then maybe not. I've had a chance to taste a few relatively old teas, 80s production and 90s, and also early 2000s, just in samples from Chuang Shop. And again, I don't know if that's actually how old they are, although Chuang Shop seems to be a pretty reputable place for most things. And their hai cha is great. If you are interested in hai cha and have kind of drank through Yunnan Sourcing's offerings, and every now and then Y2T will put some up, or any of the other normal places, check out Chuang Shop, because they do have some really interesting hai cha. It's pretty affordable, although you gotta kind of figure out the shipping, which is sort of strange, because you order it and then I'll send you an email later about how much you're gonna ship, or how much it's gonna cost to ship. So you can see this kind of red-brown soup, okay, in the chahe. The aroma on that is nice sweet cream with mulch, and in the cup, it looks the same as it does in the chahe. Yeah, like warm milk, or maybe even a little bit of like heavy whipping cream in the mouthfeel, that transitions pretty fast to a slight sweet cherry and wet cold wood. And I say wet cold wood because I think there's a difference. If you ever lifted up a log in the woods and on a cold day and smell it, it's a little bit more mineral, and it's less like organic and rotty, smell. Whereas in the summertime it can be a little bit warmer. You have more of that sense of decay, and I don't get any decay in this. There's certainly no woody or pile scent in here, which is really nice. Yeah, the aroma is just cherries, maybe a little bit of cocoa, maybe a little bit of coffee actually in here. In the aroma from the hot guy one, but the tea is all cream and wood, and some of that cherry or betel nuts. Okay, is this even in focus? I hope it is. And if it's not, you're probably just listening to me anyway. This is kind of, again, a little half podcast, half tea video. I always like listening to podcasts when I drink tea, and there aren't very many tea podcasts out there, and I'm sad about that. So I watch YouTube videos and all sorts of things, and so hopefully this will fill and kind of mix the two in a little podcast. So if it's out of focus, then you can just listen. Okay? Yeah. There's very little bitterness here. There is some astringency, which makes me think this will age out fairly well and not just go totally bland. Although again, I don't know a whole lot about LiuBao and how it ages out. I know that, pretty old teas and stored in Malaysia in the warm places are pretty traditional. Okay, that's good. It's a little gritty. Maybe that should have been a rinse instead of a steep, but we'll take it. So we'll go ahead and do another one here. See if I can break my window. Okay. Give this a good solid steep. I don't think you can brew this hard enough to make it bitter. Really bitter. It's pretty tame. Okay. Yeah, much darker in that, more in the mahogany brown color. Okay. So maybe now I am getting a little bit of that woody, the pile scent in the aroma on the cup. Not so much in the leaves. I'm getting more, actually, a little bit of like oak leaves in the hot gaiwan, which is kind of cool. Kind of dried oak leaves. Really sweet, dense. The mouthfeel on this is really nice. You're getting that cream. It's very slippery in the mouth. It's a salivating tea, which is really interesting. I don't tend to find a lot of shu pu'ers or pile fermented teas or haichas have a lot of that salivation effect, and this one definitely does, which is kind of cool. Yeah, and I'm getting like the oak leaves and tannins in the cup as well. It really hits on that cream and that medicinal cherry or betel nut. It's pretty sweet. It's very smooth. There's no tickle in the throat. And that's just about it in this tea. And those oak leaves come and go. Maybe I want to say maybe a little bit of acorn in there, but I could just be psyching myself up with the oak. Maybe a little bit of tobacco. What I think this tea, and I think how this tea differs from a normal shu pu'er, is it doesn't have, even though it is fermented, pile fermented, like a shu would be, the mocha or whatever you would call haicha leaves before they're totally processed. I don't know if they were oxidized a little bit more. The structure of the tea in the mouth, the structure of the soup, reminds me a little bit more of a black tea, again with those oak tannins. I get a little bit of that Hong Cha sensation, not necessarily flavor. And I've read some things that would say that that's how these kind of teas are made, is that they're kind of made into a red tea and then pile fermented. And that's one of the things that differentiates LiuBao and haichas from shu pu'er, outside of not being from Yunnan province. And I could believe that with this tea. But I also, however this was pile fermented, I don't think it was done for very long, because it doesn't have that composted sensation that a lot of shu pu'ers do, in which the tea itself is broken all the way down into vanilla and mulch and kind of like bottom of a pond taste, which I know sounds extremely appetizing, but I think you know what I mean if you drink shu. And it doesn't have that. It's like it's been fermented not quite all the way. Again, it reminds me of Shaguan shu pu'er, which makes me think that maybe these are related somehow, because Shaguan, I don't think pile ferments their teas for quite as long. And so you get more of the initial tea flavor that has survived the composting. Okay. Now, I don't think this tea is phenomenal. I think it's pretty simple. It doesn't last very long. I don't get tons of infusions from it. I'll probably get 7 or 8, and really pushing those last couple. But for the price, and for the quality of the tea and the clarity of the cup. It's not murky. You know, some Shu Pu'ers are pretty murky. And I know I keep comparing this to a Shu, and it's not. It's a LiuBao, but it really tastes like a partway fermented Shu Pu'er, and that's what I keep going back to. That's just what it tastes like, so that's what I'm going to classify it as. Another thing that I am getting that is maybe a little bit different than a Shu Pu'er, though, is some mineralness in here. And it creeps in a little bit later in these later infusions. What is this, 3 or 4 or whatever? I'm starting to pick up some more mineral, not to the level of like a yancha, a wui rock tea, but there is some mineralness here. In the initial hit on the palate, and then after that cream and the fruity cherry goes away, there is some mineral like nature that's left on your tongue and maybe in the sides of your mouth. And in fact, right now, the cherryness and the fruitiness and even the creaminess is backing away, and it's becoming more mineral rich. It reminds me of like spring water, or no, not spring water, well water, that has maybe sat in the pipes for a while, haven't drawn any from the tap, and that comes out in that initial hit of minerals, not in the complexity that a yancha would have, not carrying that mineralness all the way down into your throat and then back up, that those teas are famous for. But there's a little bit of that there, and that's pretty nice. I wonder what that's going to do as this tea ages. Like I said, I did buy a sleeve of this, and I have deep sixed it in the back of the Pumador, and I'm going to let that go and forget about it. I'm going to drink this little cake up, and move on and forget about this for as long as I possibly can, and see what happens. I would love to see what would happen if a tea like this was stored in Hong Kong or Malaysia or somewhere where it would get really hot and humid, and see if those that additional fermentation from the traditional storage would sweeten this tea up, and what it would do with the mineralness and the presence that it has. I would imagine this tea could get really, really creamy, and really, really smooth. As it is, it's pretty creamy and smooth for LiuBao. It's definitely not the level of like I got a sample from Yunnan Sourcing a couple weeks ago, a Shu Pu'er that was just astonishingly creamy. I mean, it was milkshake like level, and of course you can get that sometimes in Pu'er. The Y2T's 220, I think it was a 2015 release, their old reliable Shu Pu'er, one of the little pressings in the little 200 gram cakes, had a lot of that big, thick, rich mouthfeel to it. And you just get some every now and then. It doesn't have quite like that, but it has enough else going on. It has enough minerals, and again, that nice cherry note that it's worthwhile on its own. I don't get a lot of leather from it. Maybe if I'm looking, I could get some tobacco, some like fresh tobacco, like from me opening up a pack of cigarettes or some rolling tobacco. Maybe a little bit of hint of that, but not very strongly, and not very defined. Okay, we'll go ahead and do another one here. Okay. You can see just how black that soup gets right away as soon as you pour the water in. Okay, the leaves themselves are pretty chopped. There's quite a few stems, but not as many stems as other examples of LiuBao that I've had. Some LiuBao that I've had that is just, it seems like almost nothing but stems, and maybe that's just low quality. But this is not that, but it's pretty chopped. Let me show you here. Okay, let's see here. Can you see this? No, this is not a thing you can see, but maybe it'll. can do that. Okay. That's the general. Okay, small bits of leaves, really chopped, nothing identifiably. Oh, look, there's a little bit of light here. Hey, there we go. Nothing identifiably tea leafy. Just kind of general compost. But for this kind of tea, what do you expect? Okay. Yeah. This tea has something about it that makes me want to keep going back to it and drinking it. And I don't know exactly what it is. I don't have a ton of, I don't have any more LiuBaos than this. I don't have a lot of shu pu'ers, although I do have some. I mostly drink sheng, but since I bought this cake, I just keep thinking, I want to go back to it. Maybe some of it is that it's fairly low in caffeine, and so I can drink it later at night, which is nice because sometimes I only get a chance to drink tea after work at night, and that doesn't keep me up super long. But that's not the only reason. I have other teas that don't have a lot of caffeine in it. There is just an almost indescribable quality about this tea that makes me want to continue drinking it. And I think that looking for a tea and going out and searching and trying to find teas that you want, I think that's a very important thing. Obviously, if you drink a tea and you find yourself continuing to think about it after you've drank it, drinking other teas and even if they're not in the same style, comparing it back to that, just kind of wanting to go back to it, then buy more of that tea, because you might not be able to find it again, and if you're thinking about it now, chances are you're going to continue to think about it, and especially if you're dealing with something like a hai cha or a pu'er, or even a rock tea that will age well, then buy a lot of it and see what happens to it as it goes. So this was a 2014 Three Cranes LiuBao 0207 from the Guangxi Wuzhou Tea Factory. Again, it looks like this. Oh, there it goes. It's in focus. All right. Thank you for drinking tea with me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your tea that you're drinking, and have a good evening.